And this is year in review. So
Hey all, just when we thought 2020 was a year unlike any other, 2021 came along and showed everyone that expectations were made to be broken and that there's no planning for the will of the people. So in our last ISC of the year, let's take a look back at what made 2021 the biggest year for Star Citizen yet. In January, the year began with the longest-running fan-organized event in Star Citizen, the filthiest race in the verse, the Daymar Rally. Now, when devs returned from their holiday break, they found reports of a bug that was threatening the year's event and were able to develop, test, and push out a fix just in the nick of time. It was a start to the year that reminded us all how Star Citizen only exists because of backers and developers working together in support of each other's shared dreams of a first-person universe unlike any other.
okay, so
January
I've watched this already, so that you're not going to get my first pure thoughts on this. Jared's setting up for something here at the end, and yes, Star Citizen does exist because of the backers and the team working together. The difference is it isn't representative in the live build because there's no care on the experience there.
January also saw the return of the Combat Summit, a gathering that would set the stage for what would become the most substantial series of updates and improvements to Star Citizen's flight experience yet, leading to the power management and capacitor changes, missile guidance and control rework, operator mode improvements, and more that would come throughout the rest of the year.
Bro, I have not been hit by a single
January
missile.
2021 also said a temporary goodbye to Delamar, the outlaw planetoid that had been sleeping on Stanton's couch since late 2017 when it was removed in PGU to make way for the new planetary tenants arriving soon. Don't worry, we'll see you again soon, Delamar. February brought with it Alpha 3.12.1 and the release of our first dynamic event, Xenothreat, where the Outlaw Group launched a campaign of violence throughout the Stanton system and players came forward to combat the Scourge. It was a first-of-its-kind event that brought everyone in the persistent universe together in a common cause to, well, most everyone. Some of you just gotta do your own thing. And believe me, I respect that. But it was a chance for everyone else to fight with and against the
Damn, are they paying these content creators to use their videos? What? No, of course not. Like, nobody cares. Everybody would just be happy to see their video on ISC. Do you understand? Okay, let's get something clear about content creators. Most of us are just doing this because we enjoy it. Some of us, myself included, are lucky enough to make a little bit of money while we do it. But not every single little thing you do is to make money. You understand that, right? Like, sometimes it's just cool to see yourself.
For capital ship combat in the persistent universe yet. 3.12.1 also brought with it a bunch of...
As a matter of fact, you know what? I should just put it in sub mode because you shouldn't even be allowed to speak without paying here. Like, give me a break. Of course not. They use detox videos all the time.
Bug fixes,
they probably
EVA
should pay
quality of
detox.
life improvements, more prison missions, and improved inventory for shops throughout the verse. While the Red Festival brought new red and gold ship paints for the Nomad and Freelancer, and then for those who were lovers
They did
and
ask
not
me to use
fighters
the video.
or cargo
Yeah.
haulers, Koromor 2951 brought with it a Valentine's Day contest where the community had wonderful submissions like the ones you can see here, as well as some using my likenesses that we will not be showing here. I did send one to my mom though, so she could see what kind of stuff I have to deal with. She said you're all as special as I am. And I still don't know how to take that. March began with the first wave of our long-awaited ship naming coming to the persistent universe.
Pepe laugh. Okay, so we are now in March. Now, so far, looking at the year in review, it's like, well, dynamic events made it in, you know, and that's actually kind of a big thing.
We're proud owners of the Hammerhead, Reclaimer, Carrick, Mercury Star Runner, 600i, and 890 jumps could reserve their very, very, very small names. They got better. They're getting better. March also brought with it a new Cyclone MT for Stella Fortuna and our first look at the Persistent Universe's reputation system, a turning point moment in the continuing development of the Star Citizen experience,
Huge.
adding consequence and reward to almost any action or decision you make, and allowing our developers to build
Dynamic
a
events.
sense of true progression as more and more systems plug into
Reputation.
it from that point on, as it went into testing with Evocati that month. April then kicked off with the visually impressive reveal of the long-rumored Origin 404, or as Paul Jones called it, a sausage dog with toilets. And we all know that when art director Paul Jones says it, you can take that to the carrot killer. April also saw new Star Citizen merchandise arrive, in-game Star Kitten helmets for subscribers, updates to the referral program, and a little thing called Alpha 313, which brought with it all manner of new goodies like brand new cave entrances and sinkholes giving new opportunities to explore with ground vehicles and spacecraft alike. New asteroids created.
You know, I've never found the one that you fly into. I've never seen it. I've driven into the one where you drive in and then it just stops. You can't drive anymore. And there was nothing in that part of the cave that was useful in the drive-in area. And then I've never found the one that you have to fly into. Ever. But, like, no mission's ever taken me there, nothing.
For more variety and less potato-ness.
Should have made Jumptown in a sinkhole. Yes. Like, wow. You're super right.
A wrap-up to the polished revisions of every planet and moon in the stand system, improving the overall look and feel of everything.
They
from
look amazing
Aberdeen
now.
to Gila.
Yeah.
New mission types like quantum sensitive, timed, and multi-drop deliveries. New staggered force reactions, object push-pull trolleys, mounted guns they still won't let us put on trolleys. Give the people what they want.
Mounted guns that still have no purpose in the game. Trolleys that still have no purpose in the game, right?
Font-rich Tyrer, Merlin Constellation docking.
This was a big deal.
Vehicle visual degradation and our first ability to wash some of our ships.
This will eventually matter.
Components to improve that forever improving system. SDF shield effects to patch these holes and make for better looking effects overall. And the bigger and badder Rock DS mining vehicle.
They should have left this one out.
Now, not to be outdone,
You have
they
to find
came
better.
hard with Invictus launch week and Alpha 3.13.1, which brought players inside the battle-hardened Javelin-class destroyer for their first glimpse of life aboard an actual UEEN vessel. It also brought the C2 and M2 Hercules Starlifters into the Persistent Universe to forever change the meaning of weight class.
Now we have the Cutlass DS.
Made
It's
it an
so
early
true.
Tonkamus with the arrival of the Tumbrel Nova. Gave us our first look at the currently in development RSI Scorpius. Gave racers a chance to compete in our first Microtech Metro Loop race. And shocked everyone when the big mammer jammer itself, the Bengal carrier, came cruising through the Stanton system. To say it was a sight to behold is an understatement, and was a fitting tribute to what was already well on its way to being Star Citizen's biggest year to date. So, June, listen, you're gonna take a break, right? After those crazy April and Mays? You'd think, but not at Star Citizen. When June said this is the way...
No, they take their breaks
Azatlan
on the last year, the last patch of the year.
and light armor for subscribers, issue council improvements and new multi-user private lobbies to make getting into games with your friends easier than ever before, an Alien Week that brought with it the newest ship manufacturer in Gitac and its Raylan cargo solution.
How many gameplay features have been mentioned here so far? So we have dynamic events, which were big. The reputation. What else? I think the missions of the different like boxes and stuff, as minor as that is, that's a thing. The mining improvement was not an improvement. It was a detriment. Because that was the subcomponents, that wasn't the consumables. So that was something that like didn't change anything basically. Missions are content, not gameplay though. Sure, but it's something more to do. Sinkles gave new investigation missions, but not really. They're kind of the same, right? It's just you fly down. And again, like I've never gotten one. So
New paints for the hottest offerings from Mapoa, Asperia, and the Banu. An intragalactic cook-off that contained enough cookies to spike my blood sugar just by looking at them. And this thing Jeremiah and I made on stream that Dave Haddock still won't acknowledge or talk about. Just wait until you see what we make for Luminalia tomorrow, Dave. June also introduced us to our next dynamic event, the Ninetales Lockdown, improvements to the upcoming Xenothreat Redux, and new limited edition model kits from our partners at JR Design and Fabrication, who made that enormous life-size dragonfly you saw at CitizenCon, and that's sitting in 2 giant crates right next to this desk that they still won't let me open. We also learned that Ian Leland doesn't know what 7-layer dip was that month. I know we're only talking about the highlights, but that was a pretty big one. July was Public Test Universe month, as Alpha 314 and its edition of Star Citizen's next landing zone, Orizon, and the gas giant crusader that sits beneath it required an enormous amount of testing and quote-unquote banging on the pipes from backers and developers alike. Together, the two represent.
And this was the beginning of where we are now. This, I think, was the beginning of what caused everything with the roadmap problems now, was this specific planet.
The next major milestone for our planet tech, content, environment,
Orson's very cool.
Graphics, VFX teams, and more. And along with it came many of those flight combat changes that began their journey back in January, a revitalization of the way radar, scanning, and ping worked throughout the universe.
But as you could see, this was also the beginning of the right turn that I feel like they've made, which is, like, here you're going to see scanning changes, things that we actually touch, combat changes, right? Like, boom, it's just going to start, and it's going to be bang, 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 in comparison to the whole beginning of the year, right? The whole beginning of the year, rep system, dynamic events. That was really it. And then you're going to see this shift of, like, whoa, the experience that people have here is good, and we need to improve it. And I just hope from this point forward, the point that we're looking at right now, for the rest of time, that this is like the only direction that they go, is just like blinders on, and it's all about this. It doesn't matter if scanning is worse than ever, Mercury. It just comes down to that attention was paid to these things. If they made it worse, we just got to keep giving them feedback. For me, if the attention is no longer on the way things look but it's on the how we interact with things and the way things play, I couldn't be happier, right? It's it could be frustrating and we have to give our feedback on those things, but if they're actively trying to work on that stuff, I think that's a positive.
And new canvas slice HUD made possible by our continuing development.
The new HUDs are
that provided an improved layout
objectively better.
My screen real estate while
scanning,
laying the groundwork for
not really.
manufacturer-specific visual design still in development, like the Aegis and Drake ones you can see here. And after living most of July in PTU, Alpha 314 was joined by the constellation Taurus when it came to the live servers in August, along with our first version of volumetric clouds that would steadily improve over the remaining months of 2021. New merchandise like the Finley Stormwall plush that looks to give Pico a run for his cuddly money. Our first chance to meet several new faces at our newest development studio at Turbulent Montreal, and more. Now inside the verse, if the new Ninetales Lockdown didn't threaten to make your day enough, Xenothreat returned.
I mean, Ninetales was very not good, and I think the improvements that they have for the future should be a lot better.
With a bunch of lessons learned from their first encounter and improvements to the overall flow made with feedback from our players. Now that said,
and Xeno was a lot better the second time around.
The most insidious forces to make their presence known in the month of August. Oh no! For August was the beginning of Ship Showdown and the end of all sane reason and accountability when the vile armies of Argo began their campaign of busting expectations and ship brackets alike. No! We will not be showing any pictures or videos on this one. It's my show. I will mention another community event in the Fight or Flight Double Elimination Tournament, where content creators from all over the world went head-to-head in randomized ships and loadouts for the first of its kind event that I sincerely hope returns in 2022. Now, October, there's a month, and it was perhaps the biggest month and the biggest year of Star Citizen yet, beginning with the return of
Second place POV. Yo! Bald. My community is the absolute worst. You guys are the worst. Listen, man. That, first off, was a nice butt. Second, was a very fun tournament, and I don't want to participate again because I know that I peaked, and it's never going to be better than that. But that was cool. It was cool to see that and to have that in there too. That was something that, I don't know. After that event, I was like, wow, Star Citizen can be fun. So it was, yeah, it was nice.
In digital-only form. It was a day packed with exciting looks at the upcoming Pyro system, including new AI systems utilizing new planetary nav mesh, bringing new life and possibility to the new planets and moons of Star Citizen's persistent universe.
But if they're new, why don't we have them? We don't have this stuff. I mean, we have the animations, but we don't have the nav mesh stuff, I don't think.
It was also our first look at the newly reconcepted Banu Merchantman that's recently entered production. The Anvil Liberator Light Carrier that may prove to be essential in barren systems without a gas station.
This ship, I did not buy, but I have to have. This is the most useful ship I've ever seen in the game. There's never been a more useful ship. It can carry cargo. I believe it can refuel. And it can move this many ships. I love this thing. And it's just not pretty. It just does its job, and that's it. It's my favorite ship out of all of the ships right now. I can't wait to earn it in-game. Seriously.
On every corner like Stanton. The official reveal of the long-debated 400i from Origin. New advancements in planet and cloud tech.
No, not Jack of all trades. It just moves ships. It can't refuel?
An
Okay,
update on server meshing with graphics that nearly killed Vicky. And much, much more.
Also, I never noticed this up at the top. My camera's blocking it. Let me move it here real quick. Webcam box. Look at the server FPS. What part of this were they describing? Because the server FPS has to be at 30, right? And it can't go up and down. It needs to be stable, no? That's my understanding, at least. Were they implying, like, when all the planets are going, this is what our current server FPS does? I don't remember this part, but when I saw 17, I was like, I'm pretty sure it needs to be 30. But again, at least it's not 3, which is where we're at now. That was the example of the problem of the actual servers. Awesome. Okay, cool.
It was also where we saw tremendous offerings from our community in the cosplay contest.
Yo, this cosplay stuff is
part
insane.
Of the entire day, community videos that showcase precisely what separates the Star Citizen community from every other gathering of fans in gaming. Now, I want you to know that if the entirety of Sleepless in Stanton isn't playing right now, complete and uninterrupted, it's because somebody's punishing me for skipping September. Now, in addition to CitizenCon, the patch with the most widespread and healthy impact on life in the persistent universe since Alpha 3.0 dropped to PTU in October with Alpha 3.15, the biggest step yet in realizing the vision of Death of a Spaceman set forth at the beginning of our crowdfunding campaign. That began...
And not just realizing Death of a Spaceman, but just realizing a, like, risk versus reward, just general gameplay experience. I've also never met that doctor, so yeah, I don't know. I've never heard him speak, but people in chat said that they have heard the doctor talk to them when they wake up.
Down states, allowing for
realizing it's like the groundwork of
so that players can better keep each other in the fight.
It's huge.
Dealing with new injury states like broken arms and legs that impair their ability to fly or otherwise traverse the universe. And administering treatment to players and NPCs alike through healing. Now, this was coupled with the death of global
Thank you,
inventory
Meister.
and the new tiered implementation of a local to vehicle to external to personal inventory revamp. Now, from this point forward, the planning, considerations, and ultimately choices players would make would be more important and impactful to their gameplay experience than ever before. Along with additional systems like loot generation, giving players more reward for their increased risk in the field, new infiltrate and defend missions, bombing mechanics alongside the new A2 Hercules Starlifter, additional improvements to Crusader and the Orison Landing Zone and hospitals, the only place I see more than Kleischer Prison when I get to play. October was the month that life in the verse truly changed forever and gave us our best glimpse yet at what 2022 has to offer.
And that's the big thing, is where we are right now is what 2022 may have to offer. That's the point at which we are, is like they're like moving the chess pieces around, but we're not like winning the game, you know? I don't think 2022 is necessarily going to be the year. I think the big problem with 2022 is the fact that static server meshing, from what they said, will not come until the end, which means it'll most likely come later. So I don't think 22 can possibly be the year without static server meshing. But hopefully they can start, moving those chess pieces around to make the game a little bit more fun. I don't know if it can be fun without a decent server FPS. I'm far from optimistic, Soma. It just comes down to, you have to look at this video is perfect to look at how little there was at the beginning of the year in terms of tangible things that you can touch and feel and play versus how much there has been in 3.15 and a little bit in 3.14, and I mean obviously nothing in 3.16, but it does make a difference. I've never wanted to play Star Citizen more than I do now, and it's super frustrating that most stuff is broken because I could see myself playing every day, So it's crazy. Thank you, Virgil, for the raid, man. Appreciate it.
Now, as Alpha 3.15 moved from PTU to live servers in November, it was
just want to loot and sell. I mean, they're working towards that,
which brought with it a return to the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo.
This is the patch that broke everything, though, because 3.15 was okay. It had its bugs, it had its issues, but then this patch came out and it was clearly rushed out, and everything fell apart. This was the moment everything fell apart.
The biggest showcase of spacecraft and vehicles in the Star Citizen universe. Now, this year's event saw the reveal of the Anvil Spartan, the new Aegis Redeemer, the Argo Raft, the Ares Starfighter Ion and Inferno from Crusader, the Misk Odyssey, and the Jax Midlife Crisis.
I don't know, Jimmy. Maybe this gig is passing me by. I mean, clearly I'm out of ideas. I'm rehashing old material without even realizing it.
It was an exciting event as it is every year, and one whose effects I think we'll be feeling this time next year. I'm just saying, Jax is going to come back from Pyro with who knows what. And that brings us up to December and the upcoming patch. Now, as we've seen throughout this year, not all the content included in a patch cycle will arrive on day one, as the use of our point patch system has been tremendously successful in keeping fresh each and every month of 2021. Now that's
where I have to stop. Has it been tremendously successful in terms of keeping things fresh? Somewhat. Has the point patch system, I think, is the thing that needs to change, though. So every other video game that you play, if there's an incredible imbalance or a bug or an issue, what happens? The developers put a fix in and they put a patch out to fix those issues, right? Star Citizen has a lot more issues than your average game would have. But I really feel like there has to be something that changes where the live build is the live build and the PTU is where you stabilize everything before you bring it into the live build, where you balance everything before you bring it into the live build, where you figure everything out before you bring it into the live build. That's what I feel like has to change, but I don't know if that even makes sense from a game development standpoint. Something has to change in 2022 when it comes to the experience that we have in live versus game development. Like, I know this is a game that's actively in development, but it's also a game that people actively want to play, and there needs to be some sort of give and take with that. And I think the first give and take is what Jared's talking about now, and it's well, you're not really playing 316 on the PTU, you're playing 315 because 316 was so unstable. They didn't want to give you a patch that was so unstable that you couldn't play it. And I think that was the first time they've ever did that.
Said, pending any further surprises, our next patch cycle will include a new hospital in Area 18, the Gravlev physics rework we showcased last week that will make vehicles old and new fly better than ever before. I have no real power here. The new Jumptown 2.0 dynamic event, which we should really come up with a better name for because it's also Raven's Roost and Paradise Cove now as well.
And it's also not Jumptown.
And something new to help players hold down those drug labs, allow me to introduce to you the Cutlass Steel, the newest offering from Drake Interplanetary that lets you bring people and guns to bear on targets like never before. Let's start with the guns. We heard you like guns, so in addition to the 4 size 3 gimbals controlled by the pilot, 1 man turret with size 3s, we've added an additional remote turret with size 2, a whole bunch of missiles, and of course the brand new hotness, 5 door-mounted ballistic Gatlings, 2 on each side and 1 at the rear to bring a veritable death blossom of firepower down upon Raven's Roost, Paradise Cove, Jumptown, or heck, just about anywhere. Then, once you've cleared the area, we go inside the ship to discover a whopping 18 jump seats full of mercenaries or commandos ready to maintain control of the area.
If you can also hold cargo in there, it might actually be decent for Jumptown.
Is it a lot? Maybe. Is it excessive? Possibly. Is it Drake? Through and through, you bet your butt it is. The Cutlass Steel will be straight to flyable when our next patch goes live. Let me try some unofficial ad copy here. The Drake Cutlass Steel. It's a lot. All in all, it's pretty easy to look at 2021 and be incredibly proud of what we've accomplished together.
Do we know how much it is yet?
We know it's not always an easy path, and that the road bumps and detours along the way can sometimes make for a frustrating experience. But for those of you who have watched this year's over 100 videos on YouTube or Twitch, or read the 250 plus comm links on the robertspaceindustries.com website, or engaged with the thousands of dev posts across Spectrum, Reddit, or social media, we hope this all gives you a sense of just how much this project means to us, how much your involvement sustains us, and how much we very often share the same feelings in both our victories and our setbacks. They say that video game development has always been a collaborative process, but perhaps if we've learned anything this year, it's that none may be more so than Star Citizen. And we're thrilled to have shared our 2021 with you. For Inside Star Citizen, and on behalf of Cloud Imperium Games, I'm Jared Huckabee. Come on and hang out with Jeremiah and I one more time before the holidays on Twitch tomorrow, and we'll see you right back here in the new year. Take care.
You don't think that was genuine? I'm seeing scams and stuff like that in chat. Not a single Bible thump. Emotional manipulation. This is the kind of shit that needs to stop. All right? This is where my saltiness, for some reason, has turned into you always thinking they're being manipulative. Jared was an actor, so it's possible, but I've been around Jared. I've told you guys this a million times before. Nobody cares more than him. Nobody's more passionate more than him. Nobody works as hard as him. This is 100% genuine. The difference is I don't see the same feelings in the game, right? I don't see the collaborative process as much. Like, Luke Presley's here, Elliot's here, who are both on the mission team, right? Luke obviously leading that, the whole experience. It feels like a collaborative process at times, but there's also times, I think, like PvPers can attest to this, where the action on feedback doesn't feel collaborative at times, or quick enough. And I think there's a lot of comparisons at times that can be made to like World of Warcraft, where they put out a patch, it's incredibly buggy, the game is huge and can cause a lot of issues, and it's buggy, it has issues, they didn't action the feedback from beta, and then later down the line in the 0.1 and 0.2 patches are when they actually get the fixes that they want, when people are already jaded and don't want to play the game anymore. I agree with Jared at that. Like, I got emotional twice now watching Jared say that. And, yeah, it's genuine, but it needs to show in the game as well. And it needs to show during the collaborative process. I'm fortunate enough to feel that collaboration, but I think the community as a whole doesn't necessarily get that. And, again, I really hope some things in 2022 change in terms of what the live experience is like versus the things that they're working on. If it's going to be detrimental to the experience on live, leave it in the PTU and wait till next time. I don't know if that's a realistic thing, if that is how things can work. But if anything proves it, it might be this 3.15.2 thing, is we need to do more of that. And yeah, it's tough. So we need to start caring about the game more and not getting the ship sail patch out on time, things like that, right? If it's going to be detrimental, just hold it off. People are still going to buy your spaceships even if it came a month late, things like that. But all right, I mean, that was ISC. We'll see if there was anything at the end here, but I don't think so. Nope. And those are my thoughts on the year. It started off really slow, and we really ramped up towards the end and took a turn in a direction that I've always wanted to see Star Citizen go. So am I optimistic for 2022? Yes and no. I think we can't do anything without server meshing. So it is another year where we got our eyes tuned in and hope something changes, but it's just another we'll have to see kind of year. But we'll see. I don't know what else to say. We'll see. Answer me this. What was your feel when major gameplay devs pillar previous stars? What? That's not English. So hold on. Talked. I noticed they seem to be answering things to avoid problems, but are tired on how things are going. Yeah, a lot of the times in SCL and things like that we don't get the answers we want. They don't communicate with the community. They're not collaborative at all. SCL, especially with the ship guys, is like an awful experience to be on. You know, it's not very fun. 2022 will be an even bigger shit show as 2021 in terms of playability. Desync will get even worse. Server stalls will get worse. And when server meshing comes in, we'll get back to server instabilities for another year minimum. Yeah, but don't we have persistence coming before meshing, I see? So Excuse me. Holy shit. So while it may be unstable, it'll be less detrimental to the problems. Rona? I mean, I know there's Rona in the area, that's for sure. Because the entire Florida Panthers team, which is, just up the road, has coronavirus, so, yeah. Yeah, I think things have to absolutely get worse before they get better, though. I think that's what Icy's saying, I wish they would work closer with the players for, like, mining, trading, combat, etc. That's what I mean about, like, what Jared said felt genuine, but at the same time, when you look at the experience that we're getting, it's not.